following program is recommended for those 16 and over, as it contains sporting violence, possible bad language, and flashing imagery.
Hello, everyone. I'm Todd Grisham in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, to be more specific, and depending on where you are in the world right now, today's the day, tonight's the night. One of the biggest boxing cards in the history of the sport. 6 of the top 10 heavyweights are in action in our 8 fights tonight live, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a day of reckoning.
Live on DAZN pay-per-view, December 23rd. Day of reckoning. The sun is rising as the biggest names in boxing, Joshua versus Wilder,
Joshua right hand,
and Wilder versus Parker, headline a history-making boxing card.
down he goes.
Witness the furnace of fight night. Reckoning is in the ring. Live on DAZN pay-per-view, December 23rd. Buy now at DAZN.com.
What a week it has been and what a night it is going to be. That is the scenic shot of Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. If you've never been here, it's much different than you would expect. A brilliant view of the city. People are so friendly, a lot to do. It's almost like Las Vegas of the Middle East. And boy, is this fight card going to sparkle tonight from top to bottom. Some of the biggest names in the sport: Frank Sanchez Jr., Filip Hrgovic in action. Jai Opetaia could be the pound-for-pound best cruiserweight, but Eddie Hearn thinks he's going to be a heavyweight champ one day, and then the WBA Intercontinental Heavyweight title is on the line. If you haven't seen Makhmudov, he is a very intimidating specimen. Then to our final 4 fights of the night. Dimitri Bivol defending his WBA Super World Light Heavyweight title against England's Lyndon Arthur. Daniel Dubois versus Jarrell Miller. Boy, the build-up for that fight has been intense. Deontay Wilder, Bomb Squad versus Joseph Parker. A lot of people think Parker can pull off the upset in the co-main event. And then, of course, the coup de grace, Anthony Joshua versus Otto Wallin. And you can buy it all on DAZN pay-per-view right now. Why wait? Why procrastinate? As my parents always told me when I was younger. I know Sergio does that a lot. In fact, he just stumbled onto the stage right now. Former world champion Sergio Mora, the Latin Snake. Former world champion Darren Barker. I've never won anything in my life, but gentlemen, we've called some of the biggest fights the past couple of years. You and I called an AJ fight in Tottenham Stadium. You and I have called Canelo in football stadiums in America and the United States. But this event this week has felt different than anything I've ever covered before. Do you get that sense?
Yeah, 100%. Tonight is the night that we've all been waiting for. Look, you wouldn't think it. I'm 41, Todd. So
really?
I've been involved in boxing for a fair time. Since I was a kid, I've never been involved or ever seen anything like this in all my years being involved in the sport. It's incredible. The magnitude of it. Everywhere you go, the lights are shining. It's special. Special to be a part of.
No, it really is. And you know what? It's all eyes on Saudi Arabia. You know, it goes back to like the Rumble in the Jungle when the heavyweights Ali and Frazier, you know, all eyes were on Zaire, Africa. That's what Saudi Arabia is doing here in the Prince and the Riyadh. And the people are great. The food is great. We golfed. The golf was great. I mean, it's amazing. But the day of reckoning is here. This is what it's all about. It's a heavyweight championship night of boxing. I mean, let's do it.
Well, it's been a spectacular week so far, and a lot of people have compared Riyadh now to the new Las Vegas. Is this going to be the new home of boxing? Is that what's going to take place here, Darren?
Well, I'm all here for it because it's been spectacular. They know how to put on a show. You just see the glitz, the glamour, the entertainment, the excitement has been building everywhere. Like I say, everywhere you go, people are talking about this show. It's a special, special place, and long may it continue.
No, it really is. And I'll tell you one thing, Big Baby Miller and Dubois, this is another fight the closer and closer it gets tonight, it's going to be something special because all eyes are on Wilder and Joshua, and, you know, we're anticipating for the big fight. But I'm telling you right now, Dubois and Big Baby Miller got something in store for tonight. I mean, the stare down was good. The fight, the build-up was good. I mean, this is all action. The day of reckoning is here. I can't wait.
Yeah, and a nasty shove between those two as Miller shoved Dubois. But that's going to be a very interesting fight. But, of course, the top of the bill, AJ versus Otto Wallin. And if you've been following this build-up at all, Otto Wallin about as confident as he can be as the Swede looks to upset Anthony Joshua.
If you ask me, it's a bad fight for Joshua. He's changing trainers again. I think he's searching for something that he's not going to find.
He seems to know more about me than I know about myself.
So I think it's pretty obvious to everyone that physically, I think he's the same, but mentally he's not.
So if December 23rd doesn't work out, maybe you can look at going into psychology. I would love to be one of his clients since he knows so much about me.
I think that he's feeling the outside pressure from the fans and from the people, and that really gets to him.
And that way I can dive deeper into my mental state with my new psychologist, Otto Wallin.
Actually, I was sparring him in 2016. We must have sparred at least 150 rounds.
There's things I can take from it, and what I can take from it is that the Wallin I'll be fighting now is definitely better than the Wallin of previous, because he's definitely working on his craft.
It was a good experience, and so we know each other pretty well, and that's why I have a lot of confidence in this fight for myself.
So we were doing a face-off and then staring at each other. Then he starts talking.
He said that AJ's reached his peak.
So plain and simple, I said, the more you talk, the bigger the grave you dig is for yourself. So if I was you, I'd shut the f up. And that was it really. Kept on talking and just up December 23rd. You keep on poking the bear, you're gonna get a reaction. There's no physical altercation, but it's just that energy, that feeling. It's a fight I wanna win. I wanna hurt him.
Let's take a look at our tale of the tape for our main event. Anthony Joshua, 26-3-0. Otto Wallin, 26-1. That lone defeat coming to Tyson Fury. Similar in height, weight. AJ, 13 pounds heavier. And that reach, 4 inches for Anthony Joshua. It's scheduled for 12 rounds. Make sure you buy the pay-per-view right now. Scan the QR code. This is the main event of an absolutely loaded card coming your way tonight here on DAZN. Sergio, how much pressure is there on Anthony Joshua as the favorite to beat Otto Wallin?
I mean, like he said yesterday after the weigh-in, there is no tomorrow. There is no fight. There is no Wilder fight without a win tonight. I mean, so much pressure. But this is the thing about Anthony Joshua. He's been here before. And this is the reason, you know, he kind of, building up to the weigh-in, the press conference, everything, there was a little bad mood, like a little chip on his shoulder. He really didn't want to talk to the public. Something was wrong, you know, but now the fight is here. It's around the corner, and now it's time to really take care of business. Joshua has been here before. He knows how to handle the limelight. He knows how to handle the pressure. It's time to fight.
You know, you mentioned earlier, like the fights in Zaire, those exotic locations. Remember how upset George Foreman was before Ali? He was very tense. He didn't want to talk to fans, whereas Ali was loose as a goose. Otto Wallin's been smiling and doing all the interviews this week, and Anthony Joshua just wants to get in and get out.
That's how it is whenever you've been on the big stage for so long, and that's what Joshua's been. I mean, he's a 2-time heavyweight champion. I mean, he wants to become 3-time heavyweight champion, but he's been there, done that, and it gets. I guess you would say it gets old for a champion. He's been there so many times, but he has to do it. This is part of the game, and it's part of getting back on track. And not only that, Todd, the fact that Wilder fights around the block, and you never want to look ahead. You know, the man in front of you can be just as dangerous as the man you're looking forward to. So this is a lot of pressure for a man that got accustomed to pressure.
A lot of criticisms for AJ about how many trainers he's had. Right now he's got a new one, Ben Davidson. Are you concerned at all?
No, look, I had stability. I know Sergio did too. We had the same coach from start to finish. But then you could look at some fighters that change trainers often. They've got another string to their bow, new techniques, new tactics, etc. But if I was to talk about Wallin as an opponent, boy, this man can fight. He's shown that he can adapt to his opponents. We see against Tyson Fury, which surprised me. He was on the front foot, pressing the action. You know, cut Fury bad. I think it was 47 stitches. And then when he fought Gassiev last time, he was on the back foot. He was moving. He's very nimble for a big guy. He can poke out the jab. He can frustrate opponents. I expect Anthony Joshua to win this fight. But let me tell you now, there is something about Wallin that truly makes me believe that he really thinks he's going to rip up the script and make it a night for him.
Well, let's hear what the trainer, the new trainer for Anthony Joshua, has to say. This is Ben Davidson.
I believe Anthony Joshua is ready to challenge again for the heavyweight title. I don't think he ever wasn't. AJ's had 2 camps this year with Derek James, who's already in good shape. He's professional, and I think that that's played a factor here, because before there was any announcement of a fight, he'd already started renting a house that was nearby the gym just to keep on it, which was fantastic, because when this opportunity did arise, he was in a fantastic place to be able to capitalise on it. I think it's really important that you work smart. So you pick the days to work hard, you pick the days to deload, recover, and you manage that. You have to manage that. If you let him, he'll just keep going. So I'm trying to rein him in and make sure that he peaks for fight night, and I think so far we're doing a good job of that. He's a 1%er. That excites me because that tells me that he's in love with the game, and that tells me that there's plenty more to come on this Anthony Joshua story. I was a part of Tyson Fury's team when he fought Otto Wallin. I wouldn't say specifically being in the opposite corner to Otto is a huge factor. I would say the fact that we now have a number of fights to go back over and look at and study. We didn't really have that with Tyson. I think I had 2 fights and 1 no contest, which happened in the second round. So I didn't have much to look at to get to know Otto as a fighter at that time. However, now we've got the fight against Tyson, we've got the fight against Brazil, we've got the fight against Gassiev. So there's a number of fights for us to be able to look at, and I think that that's really important. Wallin is a tricky opponent, but I envision an Anthony Joshua knockout.
So here was the stare down and the weigh-in from yesterday. Sergio, I know you're not a big fan of changing trainers. You kept the same one your entire career, but is Ben Davidson the right man for the job?
Me and Darren Barker had the same trainer since day one, and yes, he is the right man for the job, because Ben Davidson, he knows how to communicate in that corner. In that 1 minute, that 60 seconds that a trainer has to communicate to their fighter what they need to do for the next round, Ben Davidson knows how to encapsulate that. He does it verbally, and since Anthony Joshua is a cerebral fighter, he needs to hear the words in order to put them into action. That's what Ben Davidson does exactly right. So the strategy, everything's there for them. I'm a big fan of Ben Davidson.
Yeah, and also, like you said there, this might be a masterstroke that Ben Davidson was in the corner for that camp for Wallin, for Tyson Fury. He knows how he fights. He's been there. He's been ringside, and that could be another way of them getting advantage on fight night.
Wallin has gone on record as saying him changing trainers is just another example of him being mentally weak. He admittedly is not the same fighter he was a couple years ago, that aggressive, chase down Klitschko, go for the knockout. He's changed his style with mixed results. Are you seeing the same thing as Wallin, right?
Yeah, look, he's definitely not the same fighter he was. I still think he's a very hard fighter to beat. We see that against Helenius last time. A bit cagey early on. You're kind of willing AJ on to really land the big shots, pivot through the shots, really commit to the right hand. And we see that at the end. The right hand to close the show was as dramatic as they come. I want to see him build from that now. I want to see him hold the center ring, be aggressive, be the boss, and really commit to the shot.
You know, the phrase mentally weak can be very sensitive, but you know, you got to admit it, fighters, that's what we see. When we look at another fighter's eye, we know if he has it or not.
It's an insult, is what it is.
It's an insult, but it could be a sensitive subject nowadays. So but in boxing, you know, a fighter knows when he sees in his eyes, when he sees the body language, he knows if the fighter has it in him, if he has that oomph, you know, that eye of the tiger like in Rocky. And Otto Wallin, even though he's been to the top, he's only lost to the main heavyweight champion of the world. He only has a guy in front of him that's already been beaten. He's already been knocked out. He's already been to the top and to the bottom and back up. Wallin wants that opportunity. He sees something in the eye of Joshua tonight, and you know what? Maybe he could strike lightning in a bottle.
You said you want to see Anthony Joshua take it to him, be in the center of the ring. If you're training Otto Wallin, what's the strategy for him to beat AJ if he does employ that style?
I think being in control of the distance is so important for both. But if AJ, who's the bigger out of the two, the physically stronger out of the two, is holding the center ring, it's important for this man to sort of take a step back when AJ attacks, move either left or right, then back to the center of the ring. He cannot afford to be backed onto the ropes or in the corner. AJ will have a field day if that is allowed to happen. So it's so important that position in the ring is key.
You know what? Normally I would say for the B-side fighter, the guy that's the underdog, to start off fast. But in this case, I would like to see Wallin get out of the early rounds. You know, both these guys have been very active. So if they can get into the middle rounds, you know, where Joshua would maybe start getting a little bit more tired, especially if he starts missing. Wallin's a big man, and he's doing it from the southpaw stance. If he can aggravate and frustrate, you know, someone like Joshua, get into the middle rounds, get him into the late rounds, start questioning the mind of Joshua, whether, man, do I still have it? Do I still have that knockout power? Why can't I track this guy down? Let that sink in. Then he can go for gusto. Then he can go for the big shots, and then maybe he can get the knockout.
Lots of twitchy movements. I think, like you say, he may be a little worried, AJ, at times, a little mentally fragile, if you like. The feints, right. You know, they kind of put you in your shell, kind of. So I think a lot of jittery movements from Wallin could be key.
Mentally fragile, mentally feeble, mentally a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you like my vocabulary.
I love it.
All right, so
it's weak.
So that's the story for our main event. Co-main, a little different. Deontay Wilder, as tense as AJ's been this week, Deontay Wilder looks like he doesn't have a care in the world, and you'll see in this off the cuff with Ade.
I only met him, this is my second time meeting him in person, you know, and out of all these years, it's been over 6 years. This is supposed to have been done a long time ago, you know. I could say so many different things of why it haven't happened, but I've been talking about that for so long. Everybody knows why it haven't happened. I don't think they need to hear me to know that, you know. But that's not here, nor there. It's a different time, you know, in place, and I'm looking forward to the future. See, the future is bright. We can talk about the past all day long, but for what? And I'm not gonna waste your time.
You too. Joseph Parker, former world champion, coming off a good win as well. Obviously, he had that defeat against Joe Joyce, but he's rebuilt himself back up. What do you make of Joseph Parker as a fighter?
I like Joseph Parker as a human being. You know what I mean? I like him as a human being. I think he's a well-mannered, respectable man, you know, and he's a good family man. He's a great fighter as well, too. He got a big heart, and he's willing to give it all he got, you know, and that's all I can ask for a fighter, you know, to just get in there, give it your all, give it your best, you know what I mean? Give a great performance for the paying customers, and we go home happy and enjoy our family. So I'm looking forward to fighting Joseph Parker on December the 23rd, live on DAZN pay-per-view.
Love that smile from Deontay Wilder. And speaking of smiles, how about the one Chris Mannix always brings to the stage? He's filling in for a couple minutes as Sergio goes off stage left. You sure you don't want me to call Sergio back up here for you?
Sergio's already left. What are you talking about?
Part-timer.
Hey, you can buy the pay-per-view right now, ladies and gentlemen. Use the QR code on the screen. Chris Mannix, why should people be excited about the co-main event, Wilder versus Parker?
Well, because Deontay Wilder is as close to must-see TV in all of boxing. 43 wins, 42 knockouts. He's electric when you see him in the ring. And this is one of those fights where Deontay Wilder has, I think, something to prove. He's coming off that win over Robert Helenius, but he only fought one round in that fight. So we don't know if the Deontay Wilder we saw dominating the heavyweight division for so many years is still in him, because the Tyson Fury fights may have taken something out of him. So we're going to learn something about Deontay Wilder. I also think we're going to learn something about Joseph Parker. I mean, Joseph Parker just over a year ago had that knockout loss to Joe Joyce. He's won some fights since then. They have been relatively low level, so we'll see if Joseph Parker still has it in him to be a world championship level fighter.
As great as Deontay Wilder is, Darren, there's been criticisms about his resume. Outside of Tyson Fury, who has he fought? Luis Ortiz is probably the name that falls right underneath that. In your opinion, is Joseph Parker now the best opponent other than Tyson Fury Wilder's ever faced?
Without a shadow of a doubt, and I feel he's fighting someone in Parker who's reaching his peak now. It's crazy to think that Parker is only 31 years old. Tons of experience behind him now. He's in great shape, has Andy Lee in his corner, really, really believes in himself. There's a confidence, an aura around him that really makes me believe that he feels he's going to rip up the script and make a name for himself. Out of the two semi-finals, if you want to call them that, this is the potential banana skin.
Yeah, it is. And I look at Deontay Wilder and the weight he came in for this fight. 213 pounds, by my count, is the third lightest he's ever been.
I weigh
in his pro
205.
career.
He's only 8 pounds heavier than me.
That's phenomenal, Todd. Thanks for that insight, for a little piece of information. Okay. 213 pounds is light, and it is about 25 pounds less than what Wilder was for the third fight with Tyson Fury. Remember, he went through that phase, early in the Fury trilogy where he thought adding more weight, putting on more muscle was going to get the job done. He's clearly gone the opposite direction, weighing about 214 pounds for his last fight, and now he's down to 213. That tends to work out well for Deontay Wilder. When he beat Luis Ortiz for the first time, he weighed right around 214 for 215. When he had a draw with Tyson Fury, he weighed right around 214, 215. So this weight tends to lead to success for Deontay Wilder.
And I'll tell you why. Because his speed generates power. The power comes from the speed, the way he commits to the shot. So the lighter he is, the quicker he will be. And we've seen that's why he's so destructive down at these sort of weights.
It was interesting. Yesterday, I spoke to Joseph Parker on the stage after the weigh-in, and he said, we're going to fight fire with fire. Do you believe him?
No.
And if he does, can he win that kind of fight?
No, in my opinion, no. To win this fight, Joe Parker has to be disciplined. He needs to be busy, but not greedy. Pick his moments, but have plenty of them. I think, like I said, in the main event for Wallin, I think Parker needs to feint as well, try and draw out the big shot from Wilder and then counter. But to mix fire with one of the biggest punchers in the heavyweight division history would be crazy.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Look, I think that's more of a mind game that Joseph Parker and Eddie Lee are trying to play, trying to convince the Tyson Fury that he is going to come out guns blazing, try to throw that left hook over and over again and knock him out in the same way that Robert Helenius tried to do. I don't think he's going to do that at all. Joseph Parker is a boxer at heart. He doesn't have the size that Tyson Fury had when he went up against Wilder. I think he's going to try to stick and move. It is dangerous because when you fight Deontay Wilder at range, it gives you more of an opportunity, gives him more of an opportunity to score a knockout like he has so many times before. But I think Joseph Parker's going to try to box more. He's going to get his chin tested, and I do have some questions about that, but I think you're going to see more boxer than puncher in Joe Parker.
When you ask people up and down the press row, pick one upset. A lot of people say, I think maybe Parker beats Wilder. Why is this kind of the in vogue upset pick?
Because there's a lot of question marks surrounding Wilder. The inactivity, the one round against Helenius is not good enough. 38 years old. The first thing you lose as a fighter is your punch resistance. However, the last thing that goes is the punch. Joe Parker as well. Look, Simon Keane is no Wilder, but you can only beat who's in front of you, and he did it in such good fashion.
If Wilder loses this fight, where does that leave him here in the heavyweight division, Chris?
Look, as long as he wants to fight, he will still be someone that is a sought-after opponent. But if Deontay Wilder loses this fight and the Anthony Joshua fight goes away, I don't know if I can see Wilder continuing in boxing. Look, the guy's made a ton of money. He lives a cheap lifestyle relatively in Alabama. So I think he's more likely to walk away than anything else. I mean, this fight could lead to legacy fights against Anthony Joshua, maybe 2 fights against Anthony Joshua. But if he loses this fight and shows that he's not on the level of a Joseph Parker, I just don't think at 38 years old he's going to have it within him to kind of build himself back up to get to that level.
And for Parker, if he wins this fight, would you like to see him against AJ?
Well, he deserved the shot, wouldn't he? Why not?
Yeah.
Look, the way I'm seeing this, and many are seeing it, it's 2 semi-finals.
Yeah.
And the winners need to face. Whoever they are, they need to face each other.
All right, so that is the story of our co-main event. Anthony Joshua in our main event against Otto Wallin. And then we have Deontay Wilder and Joseph Parker. And then, obviously, the third fight on the card, Dimitri Bivol defending his light heavyweight title, taking on Lyndon Arthur. That fight looks a little one-sided, but why should we believe that Arthur can perhaps beat one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world?
I mean, it does look very one-sided, and we know why. He's looked unbelievable, has Bivol. His feet on another level. You know, I've had to grade his footwork. It's A+. You know, it's as good as it can get. Lyndon Arthur is a good fighter. He's a good fighter. He's tough. He's strong. He's got a fantastic jab, but Bivol's probably got the best jab in boxing. So you look at Arthur's best attribute, which is his jab, and he's going in there with somebody who's got a better jab than him. How does he win? I mean, it's as tough a task as possible.
Yeah, I think that Arthur's only chance is if Dimitri Bivol is not Dimitri Bivol in this fight. He has been off for over a year. He's coming off a hand injury that sidelined him for parts of this year. And maybe there is some reluctance in Dimitri Bivol, as we've seen with fighters, to use that hand early in a fight. But that, to me, is the only opportunity. Dimitri Bivol is a top 10 pound-for-pound guy. He's arguably the best light heavyweight in the world. It is a tall task asking Lyndon Arthur, who has never beaten anybody close to that level, to win a fight like this.
Much more on this fight and the rest of the card coming your way. You can buy now. Use the QR code on your screen. It is a day of reckoning tonight, live from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. That will end our December schedule. What a schedule it has been here on DAZN. But we've got one coming your way at the beginning of January. It's the return of Ortiz.
This kid they think is going to be sensational.
The real deal.
A natural-born puncher.
A young star.
But legitimate contender.
Ortiz knockout express. Too big, too strong, too good. Picks up another victim. His 19th knockout and his 19th win.
He's in a new weight class, but will it still be the same old Virgil Ortiz Jr., who's won every single one of his bouts by knockout? He'll be taking on Frederick Lawson Saturday, January 6th, live from Las Vegas. And then how about Munguia Ryder? What a banger that is going to be. I cannot wait for that one. Saturday, January 27th. Then it's the return of Edgar Berlanga taking on McCrory, the heavy hitter. That's Saturday, February 24th. But that is then. This is now. Here is tonight's fight card exclusively on DAZN pay-per-view. Use the code on your screen right now. Scan it and make that purchase. It is a day of reckoning. There's the first 4 fights out of the gate. If you haven't seen Jai Opetaia, he is something else in the cruiserweight division. One of the best pound-for-pound fighters perhaps in the world today, and hasn't ruled out moving up to heavyweight eventually, much like Usyk did, much like Evander Holyfield did. Last 4 fights, about as good as you could possibly schedule, including right there at the tip top, Joshua versus Otto Wallin, Wilder versus Parker, Dubois versus Miller, and Dimitri Bivol, which we just talked about just a moment ago, taking on Lyndon Arthur for the WBA Super World Light Heavyweight title. Let's focus in now on Dubois versus Jarrell Miller. It could be the most exciting fight of the night. It's garnered a lot of attention for 2 reasons, Chris. Because of Jarrell Big Baby Miller's big mouth and his big body. 333 pounds.
Yeah, exactly the same weight Jarrell Miller weighed in for his last fight. It's significantly heavier than what Jarrell Miller weighed when he was fighting on DAZN earlier in 2018 and 2019. This, to me, though, is the most competitive fight of the night on paper, because at one point, we looked at Jarrell Miller as a true contender in the heavyweight division. He was going to fight Anthony Joshua. Tested positive for multiple banned substances, had to be out of the game for a while. Now he's back. He's won a few low-level fights in a row. At 333 pounds, does he have the motor to keep up with Daniel Dubois over the duration of that fight? On the flip side, does Daniel Dubois still have the heart? Does he still have the desire to be a top heavyweight once again? He has twice been knocked out over the last couple of years. Went down on a knee earlier this year against Alexander Usyk, did not get up from that shot. So there are legitimate questions about the heart and desire about Daniel Dubois. So I think this fight's going to be a great one on paper.
It's a brilliant fight. It really, really is. And they're the 2 big questions. We know now why Miller was so relentless back in 2018. Now, up at this weight with that layoff, he just hasn't looked good. The mouth's still the same. He still talks a great fight, but I mean, he's having a war with Bracamonte, who, look, if you're at a level, you should be dealing with Bracamonte. He had a war with him. Lucas Brown didn't look good. For me, I think there's something about Daniel Dubois where, look, he's experienced the good, the bad, the ugly. He has a wealth of experience behind him now. Yes, there are them question marks about him potentially quitting and having that real commitment in a fight. But for me, I think he takes this one late and gets the job done.
We mentioned chaos surrounds Jarrell Miller, and it was no different this week here in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
You said bigger picture, Tyson or Deontay? You ain't gonna fight Deontay, but you been scared of him. You're not gonna fight him, bro. Because I smell That's what you would do. Since day one, bro. Ask me who we meet. You still a bitch. You're still a bitch. Came to America, that shit never came back. Never came back. You could come to UK. Bro, UK. I've been to South a couple times. Boxing is boxing, bro. You talking now. Not on the same level. And where you are, if you don't want to fight, if you don't want to fight, I don't need to fight. If you don't want to fight, they say that, bro. Bigger and better than you. Bro, Doc, we lost you. Bigger and better. The truth is, you love me.
Saturday night. Don't forget that you're working for me Saturday night. Exactly. Humble yourself.
Let me look at him. He's an ugly motherfucker. We're gonna wash him up. We're gonna beat him up. Just tuning in Saturday night, man. I'm gonna cook this shrimp. The two-time quitter. You know what I'm trying to say?
Spanking, boy.
Two-time quitter. Ain't gonna spank. Listen.
I'm gonna teach you a lesson, boy.
It's so funny.
I'm gonna teach you a lesson.
You know, after the Usyk fight, you know, I heard he finally got some vagina. So I'm happy for you. And I applaud you that you know what the gushy feel like. Well, I'm gonna make your face mushy come Saturday night. So all you guys, please tune in, and it's gonna be amazing. Thank you. Have a good night.
Hey, he is entertaining. Give him that. I think Dubois was intimidated by him a little bit earlier in the week, but now he's just kind of in on the joke and having a big laugh. Let's watch what happened yesterday at the weigh-ins when Miller went from just using his mouth to using his hands. He put his hands on Dubois. Take a look at this.
Competing tomorrow night in a schedule.
How would you have reacted here if you were Daniel Dubois?
I would have been flying. He would have sent me off the stage for sure, but he's not happy, Dubois. Look, do you know what? Miller has brought a personality out of Dubois for sure. Something we've been waiting for a long time, but he was not happy with this. He really was taken aback by it. I don't know why Miller's doing this. You know, again, it's the last opportunity to try and get in the head of your opponent, but unnecessary.
I mean, a classic move by Jarrell Miller, too. We did that to AJ before their press conference back in 2019. I think the question, you kind of alluded to this, is can Jarrell Miller get back to being the type of heavyweight he was prior to the positive drug test in 2019? That heavyweight threw about 80 punches around. You don't see that in the heavyweight division. Didn't have a ton of pop behind those punches, but when you are fighting someone with that kind of activity, he can get you in a big hole very quickly. And that, I think, is Jarrell Miller's game plan coming into this fight. He's going to try to overwhelm Daniel Dubois with punches and try to take the life out of him, especially in the second half of the fight.
You talk about his game plan for this fight, but his game plan for the future, he wants AJ in the worst way. You say it could happen. Well, you say it will never happen. You say it could happen. Why do you feel that?
I spoke to AJ on Tuesday at the Grand Arrivals, and I asked him the question, would you entertain that fight? And he said, no, shut it down straight away. But
it's boxing.
It is boxing. Stranger things have happened. Can you imagine? I mean, we see some of the hype for their scheduled first fight, which obviously never happened. It was electric. It was fun. And I imagine if they were to fight, it would be that times 100. So you never say never. I personally can't see it, but you never know.
Look, the earliest a Anthony Joshua Jarrell Miller fight could happen is probably the end of next year. If Joshua wins, he's got some business probably to take care of against Deontay Wilder. But if he gets to the end of the next year, and if he has success, and if Jarrell Miller keeps winning, if he picks up another couple of fights in 2024, that fight, I'm telling you, is going to happen. Because I don't think Anthony Joshua wants to go out of boxing with his U.S. record being 0-1. I think he wants to go back to the U.S. at some point, have another big fight. The biggest fight for AJ in the U.S. is Deontay Wilder. The second biggest fight, if he keeps winning at heavyweight, is going to be Jarrell Miller, because Jarrell Miller can talk his way into anything. He is a Brooklyn-based fighter. You bring that fight back at MSG. You bring the whole package back. Everything you were trying to do in 2019, you bring it all back in 2024. I believe, Darren, that fight's going to happen.
See, Darren, wait, Darren. He never gets excited about anything. See, and if he gets that
How do
excited,
I get this reputation for this? Because I'm not aloof like the other guy that was up here?
No, but listen, he brings that out of him. So how could AJ say no if the crowd wants it, the fan wants it, the money's there? Why wouldn't he do it?
Okay.
And he can punish the guy for what he did to him.
I get all of that, but you said it there, the if he keeps winning, I don't think he will.
Yeah.
I don't think he will. He is not the same fighter, and we know why.
So that's the story from Jarrell Miller. But what about Daniel Dubois? He was in a somewhat competitive fight with Alexander Usyk in his last bout. If he comes back, wins this, looks good, where do you see him in the heavyweight picture?
Wow, I mean, look, he's creeping closer to where he wants to be, fighting for a proper world title. there's options then. Like I say, I like what I'm seeing from him as far as his personality is concerned. He looks like there's a weight off, which is kind of weird really, because people are questioning his commitment, but for me, he can't, like I say, he's experienced the good, the bad, the ugly. Nothing is unknown now. So just get in there and forget everyone else, prove to yourself how good you are and that you're not a quitter.
I think there's a talent gap between Daniel Dubois and Jarrell Miller in favor of Daniel Dubois. I think he's the more talented fighter on paper, but I just don't know what Daniel Dubois is at this point. Look, he got his orbital bone broken against Joe Joyce. There's no shame in staying down when something like that happens. We've seen it happen time and again in boxing. The Usyk decision bothered me a lot more because there were times he was competitive in that fight with Usyk. You can make an argument he was like 3 inches away with that body shot from potentially being the unified heavyweight champion of the world. You can potentially argue that. To go down on a knee off what was effectively a jab from Alexander Usyk and not get up in a fight for the heavyweight championship of the world, that bothered me some. So coming into this fight, I wonder how he's going to react if the going gets tough in the ring with Jarrell Miller.
Hey, that is perhaps the most must-see fight on the card. You mentioned the most competitive on paper. It brings out a lot of emotions from people, and you can only see it live on pay-per-view here on DAZN. Use that QR code on the screen right now. Now let's turn our attention to El Animal, Filip Hrgović. He's had to wait in the background while the other heavyweights kind of deal with this stuff. He's facing Demori later tonight. He's a big favorite, Chris. Here's Demori standing on a pillow to try and get eye level with him. Does Demori have any chance?
No. I'm sitting here and I'd like to give you a reason that Mark Demori could win. He's never fought or beat anybody on the level of Filip Hrgović. Filip Hrgovic's been off for a little while now, too, and you could certainly argue that, it didn't look great in that win over Zheli Zhang, who has since looked really good in some of his subsequent fights. But for Mark Demori, to me, this is like a gimme for Filip Hrgović as he heads toward what's likely a heavyweight title shot in the first half of next year.
This does not go past 3 rounds. I like Mark Demori. He's a nice guy, lots of charisma, lots of character, but he will get destroyed, in my opinion, within 3.
Okay, so on paper, this is the biggest mismatch.
I would say so, and like Chris says, I think this is a kind of a nice fight for Hrgović, just to keep his hands busy, keep him active.
Everybody loves knockouts. Maybe we'll see a good one there.
Yeah, well, it's going to be destructive.
All right, there you heard it here first here from Darren. Let's talk about the first fight of the night. Frank Sanchez, such a high ceiling, so much hype around this Cuban, and he's taken on Fa, a man who weighed a lot, but he looks big. Do you expect that fight to tickle our fancies, so to speak?
No. I'm trying.
We're trying to sell a damn pay-per-view.
Well, look, with the last 5-6 fights are excellent, and I think they could be very competitive. Look, I didn't like how Junior Fa looked at the scales. I didn't like his weight, and I don't like how he's looked in recent fights. On the flip side of that coin, I think Frank Sanchez is the real deal. He has one loss on his resume, but I love his boxing skill. I think he's got really good slashing power. I love Eddie Reynoso in his corner. There's just a lot to like about Frank Sanchez on a heavyweight championship level. I've seen a lot of Junior Fa in recent years. I have not seen a lot of good things from Junior Fa in recent years. I think this is a fight that Frank Sanchez is and should be heavily favored in.
Yeah, I think he blows him away, if I'm honest.
It's not just me.
No, I think he blows him away. Well, look, but I think as far as a finish is concerned, I think we'll see a very good finish like the previous contest. Just to get a little technical, his reactions, his speed for a heavyweight is spectacular, Sanchez. And I don't like the lead hand position of Fa. He kind of paws with it slightly. And for somebody like Sanchez, that is just, that is a gift. That is an early Christmas present. And I think he'll take full advantage of it.
Well, certainly a nice way to start the card, ladies and gentlemen. It happens live tonight here from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. But in this country, boxing isn't their only love. Look at the other sports, which are all part of the Riyadh season. What a huge tennis battle that's going to be, part of a fantastic Riyadh season. And it's live on DAZN, ladies and gentlemen. We've talked about all of the heavyweight battles, but there is that light heavyweight contest. Dimitri Bivol back in action.
Every fight for me is a hard test, to be honest. I can't say that it is the hardest opponent, but I try to think like he's the hardest.
Yeah, Dimitri Bivol. Yeah, you know, it's one of the bigger world titles, other than the one I've got. And it is a hard task. I'm fully aware of it. Was fully aware of it when I got asked to do I want the fight.
You know, of course, every fighter is different. If you beat one guy and that guy beat someone, it doesn't mean that you will beat someone.
I'm now someone that I used to watch. If that makes sense. Like when I was growing up, I used to tune in to watch these big fights. Now I'm involved in it. So I become the person that I grew up watching.
I like to be in the gym, I like to work, I like to spar, fight. But from this part, some boxers, they're enjoying this modern fighting. I'm different.
Only a fight, it's like every fight where there's 10 people in the arena or 10,000 people in the arena. It's a fight. The only person that can do anything to me is him.
I have to win this fight, and I believe that I could win and then move forward again.
But yeah, initial can be stolen. Initial, we have a good war in there. I'm sure we can. We can have a good boxing fight. I'm sure we can. Two good fighters are in there, so all the fights are good fights. All of them up and down the card.
Lyndon Arthur versus Dimitri Bivol. There you see it is for the WBA Super World Light Heavyweight title. Of the top 4 fights, it ranks in at number 4 according to the Day of Reckoning fight card. Let's discuss this fight, and back in is Sergio Mora. No more Chris Mannix.
Thank God. I mean, there is sunshine when he's gone.
Dimitri Bivol, fighter of the year in many people's eyes in 2022. He had all the momentum behind him, and then Sergio, he did nothing. No fights, no buzz, persona non grata. We didn't think he was going to fight this year at all, and then this fight kind of came out of nowhere. Why isn't he fighting more, and what do you expect to see him from him tonight?
Well, he did get fighter of the year, so he did that. He beat Ramirez. He beat the best fighter pound for pound on the planet in Canelo. So he did his job in that year. But the problem is when you get accustomed to beating superstars, you want superstar money. Dimitri Bivol demanded more money, and that's the reason the rematch didn't happen. That's the reason he's been inactive, quite frankly. But here he is in the Day of Reckoning. He's going to be on the big stage. He's fighting a guy with a good jab. But when you're dealing with a fighter like Dimitri Bivol with the best jab, it's not going to be a good look for Arthur if he's going to go jab for jab. And he says it's going to be a battle of jab. He's going to lose that battle.
And not only jab for jab, but Bivol throws twice as many jabs per fight as Lyndon Arthur does.
Yeah, he's just so busy. And speaking to Bivol a couple of days ago, he said about the time off, it's allowed not his body to recover, but more his mind. He's been, mentally quite active. It's been quite taxing, some big fights to deal with. But he looks in unbelievable condition. Must say also that so does Lyndon Arthur. But yeah, he's well up against it, Arthur. It doesn't get much tougher than this. Bivol on top form is one of the best out there.
Everyone wants to see that unification fight between Bivol and Beterbiev. And if anyone can make it happen, it's the people here in Saudi Arabia. Maybe we'll see that fight next year. But Sergio, what do you want to see from Bivol tonight that makes you think or proves to you that he still is indeed one of the top 10 pound-for-pound fighters in the world?
A knockout, Todd, because we haven't seen a knockout in his last, 8 fights? He hasn't got a knockout in several years. He came out blasting people away, and now that seemed to stop. I mean, he is a complete boxer puncher because he does have power, behind those heavy hands, but he prefers boxing. This is a chess match to him. I mean, Bivol really takes pleasure in winning round by round and really shutting down fighters, and that's great. But if you're going to want that big money, that superstar money, and want to keep doing it on the big stage, you got to get the knockouts, and you got to do it against fighters like Lyndon Arthur, who has been stopped before. So if he can get the knockout on the big stage in the Day of Reckoning with all eyes here on Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, that's how you get back to the big money and maybe a future Canelo rematch.
That is poetry in motion there, what we're seeing. I mean, the footwork, the punch variation, I mean, that is a joy to watch. So, a purist like myself and Sergio, we love to see that.
Purist, okay.
It gets It doesn't get much better than that. That is a joy to watch, and I expect to see more of that tonight.
I hate to bring this up, but Lyndon Arthur defending his title for the first time. You guys didn't do so well in your first title defenses.
Thank you, mate. Thank you, mate.
I'm just saying, what advice would you give to Lyndon Arthur as he takes on Bivol?
It's better to have won a title and lost it than never won it at all, Todd. You know that about breaking hearts and love. But, yeah, Lyndon Johnson needs to use this.
Not Lyndon Johnson. The former president of the United States is not fighting. It's Lyndon Arthur.
Well, if he wants to be the president tonight, Arthur actually needs to dominate like the president. So this is what he needs to do. But, instead of the Oval Office, he needs to do it in the squared circle. He needs to stay in the middle of the ring, use ring generalship. He's not going to win the battle of the jabs, right? So if he can get foot feints, try to bait the great jab of Bivol, and then jab back, jab to the body. Don't try to get too aggressive early. Go for the distance. Bivol's been inactive, so get him into the middle rounds, the later rounds. It's going to be very difficult for him to win this fight. He's certainly not going to out-jab him. So make it ugly later in the fight.
This is what top-level sport is all about. Finding how good you are. Let's see how good I am. Put me in with the best. Let me find out. I want to know how good I am. That should be his mentality going into this fight. Look, I'm a big underdog, but look, let me prove to myself I'm actual world class.
Let's talk about the two big heavyweights that are squaring off against each other. The guy came in looking like this, the freaking monster. There he is, Makhmudov and Caballel. Look at that face, Sergio. He's almost as ugly as you. What do you think between these two heavy hitters?
Well, listen, he said ugly. All right, Parker, you're not that quite ugly. That man could be casted in the next Marvel movie for like the bad guy. But yeah, this is the type of fight between two big punchers, guys that it's not going to go the distance. These guys are meant to explode. So I want to see him get aggressive. I mean, not that many people know his name. So if he can go out there and behind that face get an ugly knockout, a scary knockout, maybe he can start turning heads.
He's the next Bond villain. If boxing doesn't work, he's the next villain. But yeah, for me, I know exactly what Makhmudov's going to do. He's going to look for that right hand. He's a thunderous puncher with the shot, a little predictable. He is open, however, to shots himself. Caballel is an accomplished fighter. He's a European champion. He's good. He needs to be nimble. He needs to be agile. He needs to be quick and try and frustrate Makhmudov. To be honest, if Caballel was to win that fight, it will be a boring fight. If I'm honest, he has to be very disciplined and on point. Makhmudov, on the other hand, he'll be looking for that haymaker right hand to finish the show.
All right, so that's the story of the heavyweights. Now let's turn our attention to the cruiserweight. One of the best in the world today, probably the best, Jai Opetaia. He will be in the ring for the first time on a card of this magnitude, taking on Ellis Zorro. Make sure you purchase the pay-per-view now. Use that QR code on your screen. So many big matches, including this Cruiserweight Showdown.
Huge opportunity. Fighting on the biggest boxing card in history, in my opinion. I'm so proud to be a part of it, and I'm pumped. I cannot wait. Styles make fights. I think Zorro's a bit more of a chess match than a brawl. We see what he brings to the table, and we capitalise on his mistakes.
Obviously a big challenge. He's the best cruiserweight in the division. It's an opportunity of a lifetime. Probably the biggest card ever. And I've come from Yorkville to Saudi, so I'm over the moon.
Politics in boxing, it's frustrating, but being here in Saudi Arabia, this is what boxing needs. You know what I mean? The politics and the people that don't get in the ring are the ones holding the fighters back.
It's not really my situation to comment on or be involved in. He was a champion. From what I've read and what I've heard, it does seem a little bit strange. If Breeders did pull out, I don't know why they would strip him, but if I can come away with the victory, I'll be recognised as, the #1 guy.
I'm a fighter. I just try and focus on fighting. And that's what I've been trying to do. And that's what I'm going to do on Saturday, is just focus on my job.
Defeated fighters, I'm always in good fights. There's a lot of knockout power in the ring, so yeah, tune in and enjoy, and thanks for the support.
I don't see it going the distance. I'll be surprised if it does. But if it does, I'm ready for 12 rounds of war.
Jai Opetaia, a scary dude in person, very cerebral, looks like he's wanting to beat everybody up, and he's got a chance to do that to Ellis Zorro. later tonight in their cruiserweight division. The third fight on our fight card, which starts with Frank Sanchez and Junior Fox, excuse me, and then it's El Animal, Filip Hrgovic, and then the two big boys, Makhmudov and Caballel. And then, of course, the other 4 fights. And look who's joining me now. Sibley is here. Made this look so much more attractive. We got Sergio out here. We got Darren out of here. Chris, obviously, very handsome as well. Chris, your thoughts on seeing Jai Opetaia up close and in person tonight?
Look, I'm looking forward to it. Unquestionably, he is the number 1 guy in the cruiserweight division. And if he had a deeper resume, we would probably be talking about Jai as one of the top 10 pound-for-pound talents in the sport. He's coming into this fight with some motivation. The IBF recently took his title away from him as a result of not facing who they wanted him to face, so he's disappointed in that. He remains the Ring Magazine champion, so there still is some hardware around the waist of Jai Opetaia. But this kid, he is very, very good. Matchroom very high on him. They expect him to unify, get multiple belts in the cruiserweight division soon, and then potentially move up to heavyweight, where I think he'd be an interesting opponent for a lot of top guys in that weight class.
Well, Sibley, you've been all around town following this. You've never been to Saudi Arabia, I assume?
No, first time, loving it. A lot of jet lag is happening, but I'm enjoying my time here. It's good.
Yeah, so what have you been up to following around all the fighters, being in the buzz?
Yeah, I'm bugging them a little bit as they go through the hallways. I got them yesterday for their entrances, coming out of the cars into the weigh-ins. I talked to Jai the other day. There I am with my baggy pants on. Look, we match. Eddie and I match. Not planned. It's been fun. I got to talk to everyone and just kind of get a behind the scenes. Sonny Edwards there.
Oh, how's he doing?
He's doing great. You saw his eyes. He has both of those eyes were messed up from that loss. But listening to him talk, coming here and just hopping on the plane after that loss, but still wanting to continue to fight and get that next one in, it was great to talk to him. Again, Jai, talking about his surname, he really, really wants to represent for his grandfather. That is a family name, Samoa. So I'm excited to see what he's going to do tonight. Of course, Bivol, great. I wanted to steal his jacket. And then talking to him about his mentality walking into the ring before the fight tonight. So I'm excited for everything. And then, of course, talking to the fans, they're ready and they're hyped.
Who was the most fascinating person you spoke to?
Ooh, who was it? Besides you two tonight? No. Don't go there. Honestly, it has to be, and he's not on the card, but we just talked about him. Sonny Edwards. He really had so much to say. He's so obsessed with the sport of boxing and just his fire and what he wants to see. Lyndon is his guy, so he's excited for that as well, to be here to support him. But he was just so knowledgeable and just so passionate and was such a good sport about that loss that happened, but ready to get back in the ring.
Yeah, Chris, it's interesting when a fighter loses like Sonny Edwards did. Usually they go into hiding for 6 weeks. They go on vacation. You don't hear from him. He's in Saudi Arabia less than a week later.
Sonny's made it clear throughout his career he lives, eats, sleeps, drinks boxing. This is what he does. So it's no surprise to see him land, probably get another couple of stitches, maybe get a couple taken out, and then hop on a plane to come to Saudi Arabia. Look, he hopped on social media like a day after the fight against Bam Rodriguez and called out Chocolatito at 115 pounds. So, this guy just wants to be involved in the sport one way or the other. He's probably going to be off for 5-6 months while he lets his body heal, but I'm not surprised at all to see him here in Saudi Arabia, and I'm sure he'll be present for every single fight on this card.
Yeah, and if you didn't get the chance to see it live, Sonny Edwards versus Bam Rodriguez, you can watch it on demand right now on the DAZN app. What a fight that was. And make sure you use the QR code on your screen to purchase tonight's Day of Reckoning card. 8 fights featuring 6 of the top 10 heavyweights in the world today, and it starts coming up at the top of the hour. Some other people we've seen around the fights this week, we've seen Derek Chisora. He seems to pop up everywhere.
Yes.
Did he bother you?
No.
Did he?
I don't want to say bother me.
Okay.
No, we had some, he calls me Bay because, I'm from the Bay Area, so he's been shouting that around. But no, he's been cool. He's been great, outspoken, got a lot to say, and he's been, every time I turn a corner, I've seen him.
And here's the grand arrivals from earlier in the week. And the thing about Saudi Arabia, they don't take a day off. I mean, everything's big and bad, and there's workers working up to the last possible second, putting up extremely huge marquee signs and video boards. I mean, they go all out.
Have you been to Boulevard across the street, the park?
No.
Yet? Oh, you haven't been? There's rides?
I've been to Dunkin' Donuts. Is that?
Oh!
No? All right.
No, I want to go to Cheesecake. That's out here, too. Cheesecake
I think they went to
Factory.
Cheesecake this
Did they?
week. The two of them did, yes.
Cheesecake Factory.
We've
They
got
go on
so
dates
many-
a lot on the road.
We've got a lot to do while we're out here, and 24 more hours, that's it.
You know, I wonder if Las Vegas is kind of, you're from Las Vegas, you're there with the Raiders all the time. I wonder if they're getting a little offended that people like Bob Arum and Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn are saying this is the new place for boxing. I mean, from start to finish, every week they go all out. Is Las Vegas going to have to step up their game?
Look, I think Las Vegas is still always going to be the home of many big fights. It's just tough to compete with the money that Saudi Arabia is willing to pour into boxing. And that's one of the things I like most about this card, because it's not just a one-off for most of the guys that are here. There's a lot at stake. I mean, we talked about what's at stake for the four guys in the main event. If it's AJ and it's Wilder, most likely we see them first quarter of next year fighting in a super fight that's going to generate huge paydays. But Dimitri Bivol, if he wins his fight against Lyndon Arthur, the winner of Callum Smith against Artur Beterbiev, that's likely going to be his opponent, potentially here in Saudi Arabia later this year. So, you know, even though not every fight is exactly the one that the boxing fans wanted, they all have big stakes behind them because of what's next for each one of these guys.
Looking at the fight card up and down, you know, you're somewhat new to the sport. I know you're passionate about it. Which fight are you most excited about?
Oh, I mean, I'm going to say the main event, just because those guys, I mean, the energy that they brought every single time they come out there. I still didn't get to talk to
Wallin?
No, I did. We sat and had a great conversation. But Joshua, I didn't get to talk to him, didn't get to sit down with him yet, which I would like that. So when you're ready to talk, hopefully that can happen. I tried to bug him when he came in yesterday.
Might be getting
for the
dressed
entrance.
right now. So.
Yeah, he's kind of busy. I think he's getting ready to get in the ring. But no, I'm ready for that main one and just to see what those guys bring and see how it goes. But yeah, I've had a blast. Like just watching everyone, just taking it all in and learning as I go. But it's been great, and it's having a good time.
You know, I want to say this about the main event, because the main event to me is the most ripe for an upset. I really believe that, because Otto Wallin, I've been around him, you know, most of the week. I've talked to him a lot in the last couple of months. He's coming into this fight with enormous confidence, and he's coming into this fight with great chemistry within his team. His head trainer is Joey Gamache. Joey Gamache is somebody that boxing people know, but he's one of the brightest minds in all of boxing. He's one of the architects of Teofimo Lopez's win over Vasily Lomachenko back in 2020. He just has great game plans, and I think he's going to have a great game plan for Otto in this fight. Otto's a southpaw. We know AJ's had some troubles with southpaw in the past, and Otto's coming off the best win of his pro career, a decision win over Murad Gassiev, who was once a great cruiserweight and a pretty decent heavyweight at that. So, look, AJ is still AJ. He's the favorite for a reason, but Otto Wallin is a live underdog coming into this fight.
All right, we're going to look at the fight card. For those of you just joining us before the pay-per-view, you can purchase it right now. Purchase it now, by the way, by using that QR code. All right, Chris, I want you to give me one sentence for each of these fights, kind of a wrap. First, Frank Sanchez versus Junior Fa.
Great opportunity for Frank Sanchez on a big stage.
Filip Hrgović, Mark Demori.
Destruction.
Be more specific. Which guy's getting destroyed?
Filip Hrgović is doing the destructing.
That's why they call him El Animal, by the way, Sibley.
El Animal.
Jai Opetaia and Ellis Zorro.
Look, again, a great chance for Jai Opetaia to showcase his skills on the biggest platform. He is, I think, one of the best pure pound-for-pound talents in the sport.
Makhmudov and Ajit Kabayel.
Makhmudov, look, rarely do I think that fighters are nervous when they're on the scales or when they're doing that face-off after the weigh-in. Kabayel, to me, looked nervous. And maybe it's because he was looking up at this big guy, Makhmudov. But I've watched a little bit of Makhmudov. A bit of a late start. He's in his, early to mid-30s at this point. But he is a guy that I think people are going to really like watching.
Bivol, Arthur, I won't put you on the spot for that one. Daniel Dubois versus Jarrell Miller.
Highly competitive fight.
Deontay Wilder, Joseph Parker.
Does Deontay Wilder still have it?
And finally, Anthony Joshua, Otto Wallin.
Anthony Joshua's road to redemption continues against his toughest opponent of 2023.
All right, that is the stage. It has been set. The pay-per-view is about to start now. Order it. Do it. We've spent all this time selling it to you. The time is now.
Live on the DAZN pay-per-view, December 23rd. Day of reckoning. The sun is rising as the biggest names in boxing, Joshua versus Wilder, and Wilder versus Parker, headline a history-making boxing card.
Down he goes.
Witness the furnace of fight night. Reckoning is in the ring. Live on DAZN pay-per-view December 23rd. Buy now at DAZN.com.